Wait, I think we need to make sure that everyone's okay with the recording going ahead. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
If not, you can always mute yourself or your screen off. But yeah, so this event is organized by the Avazad Fusion Duo, which is led by Atafe Ainali and myself. Established some years ago, our duo specializes in the contemporary fusion of Persian and Western music, taking inspiration from folk traditions from around the world and making them relevant in our times. This Composers Forum is a scheme we run to build a community around the work we do as a duo and invite people to engage more collaboratively with us. So whether you're an artist, musician, music enthusiast, whatever you are, this event is open to everyone and is scheduled to continue at this time on the first Sunday of every month. We'll be keeping you up to date about future events and opportunities to get involved via our monthly newsletter. If you'd like to unsubscribe, do let us know. As last time, we'll be recording the session. So yeah, I mean, we've already been through that. Like, if you're not happy with it, then just let us know. And it's so that we can post it on YouTube for anyone that couldn't make it tonight. So this program, this evening, we'll be trying something slightly new. We're going to use a bit more of an open format. So the event Music in the Making is designed for people to share work that is currently in progress. So usually we do pieces that have been finalized and we have a recording and but this time we're going to work with people that don't necessarily have a recording, haven't had the fortune of having it performed, including myself. The purpose of this is to both offer an insight into the composition process for those that are new to the field, and also create a platform for people to receive feedback, advice, maybe even find someone that could perform their pieces for them. So we'll be starting the program with a presentation by myself on a composition I've been working on for harp, which is called The Magic Turbine. After this, anyone who has anything to share is welcome to contribute thoughts, ideas, anything like that. I know Adnan, I don't know if he's here now, he had something that sounded really interesting, and yeah. So, but yeah, anyone who has anything to contribute is welcome. And also please feel free, like during the presentation, it's really informal, to ask me any questions, post any comments. There will be like a little recording that I'm going to play from Sibelius, so it's got a terrible sound. It really sounds awful, but it's just so that you get an idea of the textures that I have in mind, because they're actually quite, especially the way I've notated them, it's quite hard to read. It's quite hard to kind of imagine from the score, because the score is kind of messed up at the moment. It's still in its very initial stages. So that's why I'm going to play a few samples of what it should sound like theoretically, but hopefully better on an actual instrument. So yeah, so I think we're ready to begin with the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. How do I go into slides? I can't really, okay. I can't really like, how do I start the slideshow without, do I have to start it before no, okay, good. Okay, so this piece is for harp. So the initial idea was, I was listening to the santur, which is for those of you that don't know, it's a Persian instrument, although it existed in different parts, like, of the Middle East many years as well, but it's like traditionally associated with Iran, and actually Atafe introduced me to the instrument. It's kind of like a dulcimer, and it has a very particular type of sound, and the sound world when Atife introduced me to her instrument and to Persian music in general, I was just transfixed, and I became obsessed with the whole system. And when I was listening to it, I came up with this drawing. I was just listening to the music and I was trying to sort of express it in like graphically. And then I decided, okay, well, actually, I can make this into my own composition, like the textures and the gestures and all of this. And afterwards, I decided it looks a bit like a turbine. Like there's something really watery about it. Like, and there's something about the sound of the santur that reminds me of gushing water. And there's like that resonance. There's this dimension to it that it just like there's so much depth to the sound. So for me, music is generally largely about movement. So that's why I kind of looked at this sketch and I decided what each section is doing. Like this bit looks like it's dripping, this bit looks like it's like gushing water, and this bit's like spinning, and there's like electricity going on. And a lot of these ideas were also inspired by, after I decided it looked like a turbine, like a water mill of some sort, I decided that I'd look into what actually goes on in a water turbine and how it functions. And I came up with a lot of the verbs that I used, like pumping and spinning and electromagnetic field, magnetism. All of those words that I used to describe the different sections of the music came from the principles of how the like water turbine operates. So that was the basic idea. And then it was also inspired by the Persian Daskar system, which is like, it's like similar to the Makam system, but Persian. But it's also much more complex because there are certain rules about how you can use intervals and things. And I was, one of the things that fascinated me about this system is the way that like so few intervals are used to create so many different gestures and so many different colors, and it's just that subtlety that I find amazing. So that's that. And then there's the obviously the sound of the water turbine and the movement of the water. These are all analogies that fed into the idea of the piece. So the structure, this is basically the plan I had in mind, and the different colors show sort of like the different atmospheres I was trying to create. Since I mean, I'm only like halfway through. I haven't completed it, but even since getting halfway through, the plan kind of changed. But I'll explain the elements of the plan a bit more. But it basically shows the energy level and how it accelerates at different rates, and how it alternates between different colors. And so I'm not sure what to talk about first. Basically, the idea of the piece was to look at resonance. And originally the piece was written for santur itself, but then I decided to try and write it for harp and to see if that's possible. And interestingly enough, because the mechanism has some similarities in the sense that you have one tonal system, all the strings are pre-tuned, and you can't move outside of that tonal system. Once the strings are tuned, there's little you can do. With a harp, you can change the pedals a bit, but the mechanism itself, the fascinating thing for me is that once you pluck one string, all the other strings in the instrument are going to resonate. But because all the other strings in the instrument you're essentially creating a very specific color. Whereas, for, say on a piano, because it's chromatic, it's going to include everything really. Whereas with a harp and with a santur, it's different. Like every tuning system that you create means that every single note that you pluck is going to have that really specific kind of color, and that's what I find so fascinating. So that's why I thought harp would be a great place to start. And another thing that I discovered when I was writing for harp was this idea of, the thing that I love about Persian music is the use of the pedal note, the articulated pedal, which is like where you repeat a single note over and over and over, and it gives you this sort of mesmerizing feel, and it's like all the music seems to gravitate around that note. So that idea of having points of gravity which seem to kind of attract activity around it, that is something that I wanted to explore on the harp. And the reason for this is because I like the idea of controlling the resonance by using different strings that sound the same, that create the same pitch, but because you're using more than one string, it's got a bigger resonance. So I move between enharmonics, which is like notes that sound the same but are different, and plucking reiterating the same string completely, plucking on the same string. So here you can see, I can't actually, okay. So you can see in the first section, these aren't actually chords, what I've written here in the tonal plan. It's just the range of notes. So here you can see it's quite a wide range. It goes from all the way from the bottom to all the way to the top. But because one of the things I learned about Persian music, and one of the things that has inspired this, is the idea of limiting the amount of notes that you use. So at the beginning, the pedal note, the articulated pedals on the C, and that's what I've notated all the pedal notes in red. So the notes that at the beginning you only have, oh, that's wrong. That should be 3. That should be a number 3. But I used the figures from the Fibonacci series to control the resonance as well. So you start with 3 notes gravitating around a tonal center. Then you extend to 5 notes. So you've got the third above, the third below, all gravitating around the center. And then again, the tonal center moves, but it's again the same idea. 2 notes above, 2 notes below. And then all I did was shift that up and add another layer. So 3 plus 5 makes 8. And then I play around with that a bit, and then I do 5 plus 8 makes 13, and then 5 plus 8 plus 13 is 21. So you organically, the thing I find fascinating about the Fibonacci series is that it gives you access to this organic transformation, and it builds up in a really natural feeling way. So that was the idea of this. And then this bit of the piece is going to be much more chordal. The gravity, the sense of gravity is no longer there. It's kind of lost. It's kind of like all over the place. So there's going to be lots of chords, and it's going to basically be a contrasting section to the rest of it, where there's like a constant sense of centrality somewhere, and then eventually it kind of goes away the way it came in. So that's again tonal center, moving out to 3, moving out to 5, moving out to the entire range of the mode. So the entire piece is based on the Daskar Shur, which is basically similar to C minor. I don't know why I can't move on through this. Okay, how do I get out of this now? How do I get out of this presentation? Why isn't it working? Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to now play. Oh, yeah, I'll talk about that afterwards. I'm now going to play a sample of the music, and just so you have an idea of what it's like meant to sound a bit like. I'm warning you though, Sibilia sounds are really, really, really bad. But it's just so you have an idea of some of the textures. Might actually skip the very beginning because it just sounds so bad. But I'll start from here. So that's as far as I got in terms of that. And I'll just go back to the presentation so you can see kind of where it is in the music. So on the tonal plan, it would be somewhere hereabouts. The pedal was on the D. Oh no, it's over here. This is where we got up to. Can you see actually? Oh, you can't see one. We got up to like there, roughly. So ideally, the next stage of the composition will like expand to 3 layers, which means that I'll end up with 21 notes kind of all accumulating. But yeah, so the idea is to open up the resonance of the instrument and start really, at the beginning it's really, really minimalist, but because I wanted to make it seem even more big, like when it all of a sudden. But yeah, I think one thing I really want to do is include more chords as well, but I think I'm going to probably go back over the music and see how I can incorporate them and where I'm going to add them in. But one thing I noticed, one thing I learned from the process of this composition is to start really, really minimal and then gradually add things in as I go along, because I always had this problem that I started with these really complex, dense ideas, and then it just nothing worked because it just didn't sound the way I imagined it. So that's one of the things that I found really helpful, is realizing that I just need to start really simple and then add layers and layers of complexity in afterwards. So one thing that I need to think about in terms of practicalities is how it's going to sound to have so many repeated notes on the harp. On the one hand, I really like the idea of the sound being slightly subdued because it's always the same string you're plucking, because there's more of a contrast when it's not blunt like that, when you're actually alternating between notes. But on the other hand, I also don't want it to like too much interfere with the color. So if anyone has any thoughts about that issue, I'd be really interested to know. And I also need to work out how to notate across the stage. That's another thing. But yeah, if anyone has any ideas of like any thoughts or maybe issues that I haven't thought about that maybe I need to be aware of, especially if there are any harpists around. Hi, Ronnie.
Can you hear? I'm kind of far away from the microphone. I don't know if you can hear.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to with practicalities regarding repeated notes. I'm not a harpist, but I have written for harp a few times. I think it's exactly what you said, because they keep plucking the same note every time that they pluck. They also effectively dampen the note, which, you know, especially if you're using lower, heavier notes, that's going to be really pronounced. But you can always use enharmonics, which you already mentioned. And also what I've seen harpists do with repeated notes is just like, they just do octaves. So if that's something you could do.
Yeah, the problem with the octaves is it would mess up with the tonal scheme that I have, because my idea is to really minimalize it as much as possible, so that's why I didn't do that.
Yeah, but I don't think that you have any repeating notes that are super fast, and they're also not super low. So I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. It's more of a problem when you get to the lower notes that really resonate very like loud. And with pedal changes, the easiest way to think about it is like switching, like turning a page. But most harpists don't actually need that much. You do need to think about if you have the note resonating and you're making a pedal change, then you'll hear it. So anytime, like, you'll hear it kind of go up. But if you don't have the note resonating, most professional harpists will be able to give you pedal changes. Don't give them like 5 at a time, but they'll
Yeah.
be able to do like 1 at a time as they go throughout without really having to worry about it too much.
Thank you. Ronnie, I think you were going to say something, weren't you?
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing as I'm sorry, I'm not sure what your name is. Dana, is it? Yeah, about the repeated notes, because they pluck right in the middle of the string, so the string's going like that, and they have to try and stop it. So you always get that. But I think is right as well. I didn't hit what you said, Dana, about the speed of the repeated notes that you didn't that they weren't very quick, so you wouldn't have heard. You might not hear it that much. It also depends on the dynamic, or on how much they pluck, and as Dana said, on the register. I know this not because I'm a harpist, because I'm right now about to working with a harpist on something. So and it's also online. I mean, at a distance rather than in direct contact with the actual instrument. So that's the sort of extent of my knowledge in that respect. Well, I was going to say, from the the pedal changes, the other thing that seems to be recommended is basically ask the harpist, because all harpists have their own way they like to pedal change. Yeah. So some people want indications, some people don't. Where they do the actual pedal changes between harpists. So some, I think, depending on the type of music they play, like if they're jazz harpists, then they'll be able to do it really quickly.
Interesting.
So yeah. One thing that I was going to say that also struck me was generally the texture of the piece. It's all sort of one note at a time, from what I could tell. And I don't know how, I was wondering how on purpose that is.
Yeah, I definitely want to add more.
Yeah, no, just because one thing I heard recently from the harpist I'm working with is that it's not like the piano where they like 2 hands. It's one line works very well on the harp. Like, you've got different sort of seems like, you have one. I mean, you have sort of jumps, so you can hear different points, different voices, as it were.
Yeah.
That works. That kind of texture works well on the harp, from what I've heard, and yeah, I'm sure you'll hear it a lot better on an actual harp than on
yeah. Oh God.
Do you have any dynamics there? Because I didn't hear any dynamics from Sibelius.
No, I didn't add any yet. I haven't done that yet.
Right. Have you got any ideas? Because that'll probably have a big effect on how it
yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounded, other than that, I noticed that there was a kind of intention for it to sound very fluid, but Sibelius
yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's
tried.
Yeah, and good luck. Fantastic stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think that harp sounds beautiful when you have just one line. It's because it's so resonant. It has so much like of its own natural reverb. It kind of fills the space without having to have too much. And especially when you have the way you have, where you have kind of different textures. So maybe you start off with like one line and then you go to more. And then if you want to later on go back to like one single line, it makes it sound almost more lyrical, like the harp is singing. It's really, I don't think that it's bad for harp at all.
That's good. Yeah.
Probably another thing that might be worth looking out for is how you go from jumps, because you're saying you want to expand the range more. I think the way that harpists handle different registers can change quite a lot. So like, apart from a jump being difficult because they have to look where they're going to play each note, there's also the fact that they're supporting the harp on the shoulder from this, I think the central position, and then so when they reach for the lower notes, they sort of have to bend down like that. And I think, and also I can't remember which exactly the details, so Dana might have to correct me on this, but I think for further up the top, they have to support it with the knee. So there's a kind of movement in the way they support the harp, which can cause some difficulty. So if they're suddenly playing like this and then they have to do that, then I think that might you might need to watch out for that.
Yeah.
So that's nothing that's conclusive. It's probably worth making sure that you watch out when there are particular kinds of jumps, either all together or from one hand doing something.
But isn't it quite common for harpists to like go like large, like do these really large gestures between?
Yes, yeah. So obviously, but that's just a glissando of a finger like that. But if you got a chord and you play, like that's going to be hard.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
So which is, yeah. I mean, if you've got the chord here, I think it's probably easier to go like that. But yeah, just basically because you have to watch exactly where you're going to put it.
Yeah, it probably requires different types of movement. Like one side does one type of movement, the other does the plucking and alternating. It's probably easier than having them both do the same kind of movement.
Yeah.
So then you can put the shift the weight in one area.
Yeah, I mean, I think you really need to speak to a harpist to know the exact parameters of what that is. It might even change between harpists, depending on how long the arms are and just how they sit. So, yeah.
Okay. Any more thoughts? Tears?
Thank you, Eliora. It was fascinating how you managed, I mean, how you got really exact inspiration from Persian music. I totally got you know what you do as in a dastgah. That was fascinating. And also I had a suggestion about the repeating notes. I was thinking maybe doubling with octave doesn't ruin the concept, but maybe is a solution for going a bit, getting more resonance from the harp. I'm not sure, but maybe it's worth to check with the harpist. And also wanted to mention if anyone knows any harpist, please introduce them to Eliora. Sorry, Adnan, you were saying something.
No problem, I was just listening. First of all, thanks for sharing that, Eliora. It's a nice piece. You can go so much with it, especially with the mathematics in the beginning. Love to talk about that too. And regarding the repeated notes, have you tried to use Bipsigliando? So, I mean, kind of like a two-note trill, you tune them to the same pitch?
Yeah, and harmonics. Yeah, that's what I actually have that in the score. I can show you actually.
Yeah, it would be nice if we can see that. Because I think
sure.
if you want kind of like a repeated note at that speed or even faster, I think maybe it's easier to write it.
Yeah. So the thing is, the more enharmonics I use, obviously the fewer notes are available to me in the rest of the music, which is why I can only use. I would ideally use enharmonics throughout the entire thing for all the repeated notes because I get more resonance that way. But for things like when it repeats the G or the D, there's no way of creating another G, if that makes sense. So I can't do that. But with the C, it works really, really nicely. So
sorry.
Here it is. Yeah.
About harmonics then from the octave below.
Huh.
Doing
That's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
I never thought of that.
They also they can do it one-handed as well, not like us guitar.
I was going to say that too. That's a great idea.
Ah,
Because they can do one-handed.
wow. Okay, yeah, I've definitely got to look into that.
Another option might be to do. I mean, they use them a lot less. They'll use the octave harmonic a lot more. But you could, if you want a third option, then you could try and see if you can get them to do the third harmonic, the third partial. So an octave and a fifth below. Might also work. I think that might be sometimes harder for them to position because they don't have frets like us. So,
So what kind of harmonics can you do with just one hand?
basically all of them. So if they do it like that, they find the middle node. In the left hand, they do it differently in both hands. So they'll put the side of the like karate chop it there and then ping it off like that.
Huh.
And then with the right hand, they use the sort of the knuckle here, and then they put the index finger against it and then pluck like that.
Huh.
So I think just basically because of the position of the hands. So and they do it all one-handed basically.
Yeah. It is going to be a slightly different tone because it's a harmonic.
Yeah,
but
it's a great option.
Yeah, definitely, and especially as my whole piece is about colors. The more variety I have in all the different types of colors, the more interesting it is. I
mean, I'm wondering what I don't know how you'd have to try it, of course, but it might be interesting to play 1, 2, 3, and do the different harmonics like that, and then you could have 3 different types of the same note.
Yeah. Huh. I didn't think about harmonics at all. That's definitely something I need to explore. Thank you. Yeah. So this is an example of where I use bisbigli, or well, they're not really bisbigli because they're not that fast, but just enharmonics. These are all the same note. That obviously means that I don't have any Bs available to me, which is annoying, and that's why later on, when I have B flats in the music, I can't obviously do that, so I had to
just get A sharps instead.
Yeah, but I have A flats in the music as well. It's part of the so it was really difficult. But then I decided what I would do is I'd just alternate between the notes instead. I'd go between the C and the B flat and just alternate, so they're not quite so close together. But yeah, I mean, the solution using the harmonics is much better. I'd like to try that out.
Right.
Sounds great. Yeah.
And just try to beam them all together in one beam.
Yes, I need to work out how to do that. It looks like an absolute mess.
Well, on Sibelius, just have them, just do them on one staff and then highlight the notes you want and just transfer them below in the note input.
Can you?
They just put them in one
that
staff.
never occurred to me.
And delete all the rest or hide them.
Wait, do you need to do anything to do? Like, do you need to, when you highlight it, do you need to say now put this in the other state, or you just drag it?
You can just click on anything and then you go to note input. So you can click on anything, any note.
Okay, I'm going to try that now.
Yeah.
Note input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 3 kind of like above, below, and reset, cross staff notes.
Yeah.
And then you can
I can put that below.
Yeah.
Huh.
So now it's
genius.
And in the software, it's
that's great to know.
On the top stuff, but visually it's on the bottom stuff. So
great. Thank you.
Oh, of course. No
problem. And does anyone else have any comments or anything? Because if not, then we can move on to someone else. If anyone has anything they'd like to share. Anyone?
I wanted to ask you more about the idea behind Fibonacci as well. And
Oh, yeah.
I think
Sure.
Ronnie used it as well in his guitar piece a few months back.
Yeah, sure. Is there anything specific, or do you want to just explain it a bit more?
Just when you chose the pitches and the rhythms as well, how would you apply them as well? Did you apply the numbers to the pitches or the rhythms, or
So
serialize it the same way?
Not so much for the rhythms, but I always find that the pitch, to a certain extent, determines the rhythms. Like, especially when I was writing for Santor, because of the movement of the hands, you end up with symmetrical rhythms somehow. So you go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that kind of determines the pitch partly, but also because obviously you're alternating between left and right. But also like when you have symmetrical patterns, you end up with symmetrical rhythms as well. So that's why I tend to use a lot of 7s and 5s and basically odd numbers, because they give you that sense of symmetry, which I really love. But yeah, and I guess also because I'm working with symmetry in a way, like with 3s and 5s, like because those are like the numbers of a Fibonacci series, I end up with a lot of symmetrical rhythms that way as well. So I guess it does affect it a bit, but yeah, in terms of the notes, I was following a particular mode called Shur on G, and so I'd start off with like a home note, like a starting note, and then I'd use the note below it to sort of anchor it a lot. And basically, I got that idea from the Daskar system of always gravitating around the note and building the notes from it, always from that one note. Like there's a magnetic field around the note, and you're always drawing all the notes around it, like they cluster themselves around it. And then when you move to like my interpretation of the Gusha, which is obviously not accurate, but when I move to a new kind of key or a new like stage in the tonal system, then all the notes suddenly cluster around that note. And sometimes in order to create that transition smoothly, I take one note that they have in common, and I use that as either the bottom of the next cluster, like the next thing, or the top, or something like that. So that there's like, it's almost like if you look at this, it's almost like a fugue in a way, like the way it kind of, this color, I think of them as like colors that moves to the bottom, and then you have a new color kind of forming on top of it, and then that moves to the bottom, and then you have a new color forming on top of that, and then that moves to the bottom. And like, well, it's actually more, you see it more over here where you've got like 5, and then that moves to the bottom, and then you add another one over here. So I don't know, for me, I don't really think in terms of chords, which is why all of my music is incredibly linear, and why I love working with the Daskar system, because I'm very linear. My way of thinking is very linear. And for me, harmony is really the same thing as melody, like, because the melody creates the harmony for me. So I create harmonies using the melodies themselves. And that's why you end up with like these really dense chords at the beginning, and they open up later on.
And I think it's from your diagram, the harmony and the relations between the pitches get more interesting. I can't wait to hear what you do with it later on. And
thank you.
Yeah, another thing could be applied to the rests as well, you know. So you could add another dimension of linearity if things, they don't need to kind of line up vertically, and they don't need to always be linear. Pauses can be used in substitution to chords or harmony. I guess that's how I use sometimes when I have like a mathematical pre-compositional diagram or something. I also try not to serialize it, but sometimes I do apply to rests and space between sections and between music. But good luck. Thanks
you
for all that, explaining it twice.
Thank you. Does anyone want to share anything? Dana?
I can share if no one else does. I don't want to like hog the spotlight.
So just let's check how many people want to share the piece, and then we can manage our times. Adnan, do you have anything to want to share?
I have a sketch, but it's handwritten, so I'll have to, we can talk a bit about it maybe.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I wanted to hear more about that actually. So
Sure. Dana can go ahead.
So okay,
already
Adnan. Okay.
Already the score and everything. All right.
So let's go with Dana.
Sure. So I'll bring it up. So my piece is also for harp. It's for harp and electronics. It's a different piece than the one that I showed here a while ago. I can't share.
I think can I make you? I think you need to make a host or co-host.
Oh, there. I think I have.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Okay. So, maybe I need to open two tabs of this so that I can both show you and should I download it? Okay, so I'll download it. Okay, so wait, is it downloading? Okay, so my piece is it's more or less done. It's like I said for harp and electronics, but it's going to be premiered on May 26th, and I'm happy to hear any input, any ideas for things that I should change. I already have one idea for something that I'm probably going to change, but I don't want to talk about it too much. You guys can hear it, and then if you have any notes, we can I'd have to hear later. What you're hearing is mostly the effects, the electronics. If you have headphones, then I recommend to put them on because there's a lot of panning. And then in the live version, you would also be hearing the live part playing, I guess, centered, and you have the electronics playing around you. I think I need to show you some of this. Yeah, I stopped seeing you guys at some point. It like got rid of the faces, so I hope you guys saw and heard. Maybe I can try and share it and show you guys the notes, so if you guys have any. I can't see you again. Okay, I'll just deal. I'm happy to hear if anyone has any notes, anything about the piece.
I think it was just really beautiful. It's so amazing, so magical. It's really lovely. Well done.
Thank you. I hope it will translate live as well and not and won't be too weird for people.
Are those sounds that you used, are they pre-recorded or are they manipulated live?
It's all live. It's all, I don't know if you noticed in the notes where I have like space A, space B, space C, stuff like that. Those are all, the harpist has like a pedal board, like a controller. She moves between different types of reverb and basically different like different spaces. So yeah, so there's nothing pre-recorded. It's all manipulated by the live.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. Can I just ask, what's the setup like then in the room? Is it stereo speakers that you had?
Yeah. So I wanted to have 4 speakers in like a C shape, but I just my sound card doesn't have the capability for 4 speakers, so it's going to be 2.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine you did with the circular thing that goes around.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You got kind of.
I wanted to ask one thing. Sorry?
I don't know if it's my internet or yours, but I can hear like a few.
My internet connection is unstable, so that's me. Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to ask with the yeah, I'm very sorry because my my daughter had to ask me something in the middle of your piece, so sorry about that. I wanted to ask, is the reverb and stuff, did you change that much throughout the piece? And
yeah, it changes all the time. There's all the spaces all have different reverb and different echoes and like different manipulation. A and B both have 60-second reverb, which is a little bit ridiculous, but I wanted there to be a lot of ambient noise.
Yeah.
And B just has that like hard canning.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you had any where you just didn't have any like dry sound at all. I don't know if I missed that in the middle.
Yeah, no, I didn't at all in this piece. I was thinking at the end to have a little bit of just dry sound, but at the end I decided that my idea for this piece was to like kind of try and at the same time lean into the like, you know, preconceptions of harp, you know, the like angelic, like, but then also to subvert it as much as I could with the electronics. So I decided at the end that I have my space B, which is like really leaning in, and my other ones that are like subverting, and I didn't want to also add dry.
I'm also wondering that if from the title "Circular Ruins," you had sounds like it's a space that you have in mind. So I was wondering if you kind of try to maintain a particular type of reverb because of to create the space that you were of a particular type of ruin somewhere.
No, The Circular Ruins is a story by Borges.
Yeah.
Borges?
Yeah, so it's Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentinian writer.
Yeah, I wrote the piece and then I needed a name, and I liked that particular story. I thought it fit well with with the piece.
All right, lovely. Well, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. I'd love to hear if anyone has any suggestions.
I'm just wondering again about the sort of the cutting or the dry sound. I again didn't hear the bit in the middle. I don't know if you use any silence anywhere.
Yeah, not really. Just because my reverb is 60 seconds, I don't really, it doesn't ever get to silence.
Right.
But yeah, maybe I need to slightly introduce a little bit of a moment to like breathe.
Right. Yeah, because I found that quite intense for a lot of the time. Just because there was just a lot of sound going on, and it is everywhere because you have this enormous reverb there. So yeah, really. So it'd be interesting also to see the space empty from because you fill it out, and I think if it's empty, you can also really feel the space as well in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
Just an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, I'd love to hear it live. It must, it's going to sound amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dana. I really like the piece, and we are looking forward to hearing in live. And let's go for. Shall we go for the next one? Adnan, are you ready?
Yeah, sure, I'm ready.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for this piece, I shared some of the sketches before with Eliara a few months ago, and she was helping me with just trying to see what's possible and what's not possible, the flute, especially with the ideas I've written down. And I told her since the beginning, it'll be a project for the summer. We did a workshop here in my for an older piece of mine called Newton. It was for violin solo, and it was named after a girl who lived thousands of years ago. And so it's a mixture of bird sound. Ronnie remembers it because he was part of that workshop as well. And yeah, Leora wanted me to write a kind of like a similar thing for flute, and it's an idea that I love. And especially with using mathematics pre-compositionally and then reinterpreting it and not serializing all of the music, but where artistically you think it's relevant for the piece to convey a specific meaning at least, or a specific idea. And that's what I'm going to try to do with this piece. And it'll allow me to explore more of the capabilities of the flute.
Sounds great. Should I share the score?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I sent the score to Eliora just now, and
Let me see.
you'll have to excuse my bad handwriting. We can talk a bit about it, and then if you're the expert, she'll have the final say-so about the flute. It's free tempo as well, so it can be played very fast or very slow. And for these, with each bar line, almost with everyone, it's an idea in of itself, really. That's the numbers. So one is the an idea. The words are basically the air sounds that I want.
What does this say?
So yeah, here it's for a vocal kind of. I didn't write that down, but it's a like a vocal fry, if it's possible. So you would hold the high A, and then somewhere between A and the G, you would vocal fry. all so say while while blowing the note,
Yeah.
until so it's a and then it's kind of like that kind of sound. So it goes from really loud to really soft in the same phrase. Does that make sense?
I think so. You mean like sort of growling into the flute?
Kind of, but not a growl, just a vocal fry.
Because the thing is, whatever sound you project into the flute,
will
that's
affect the
not from your own, it will create a buzz. So whether you want it or not, it will sound like growling.
Okay, then it was meant for the buzz but I'm not sure how that's how you can produce it on the flute.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not necessarily something that is completely in your control.
Okay.
Like what sound is going to come out completely.
Okay, I mean, that works perfect because it's kind of undetermined.
Yeah. I can really imagine it. I think it would really work.
Okay.
But just so you know, it's not going to be necessarily.
Yeah, it's not accurate. It's also most of the rhythms are free. So when we have rhythmic, more precise sections like these, usually there's a mathematical kind of idea behind it. I just take snippets of them and then write an idea down using usually the harmonic series. And then I would just see if rhythmically or mathematically it would make sense. And then I would transform it and manipulate the pitches even more, depends on the section or what I'm trying to do with the gesture. I think like also with here, so for the airy, when you switch the embouchure from ordinary playing and more airy playing, would it be possible to do that very quickly, like in a passage, like at number 2? Like over there?
I think so. I could try it out.
Sure, yeah.
I actually have my flute right over here.
We would
I've been practicing like a lot lately. Yeah. The only thing is it uses a lot of air.
Yeah.
So, depends how fast you're going.
I see. I like that tempo. It gives it kind of like a woody, kind of a hollow sound as well. Not a hollow sound, just an okay sound, I would say. I like the way you played it, yeah. Okay.
So approx what exactly?
So with this one, it was approximately in terms of kind of like tempo. Yeah, it's more of durational here. So I'm trying to do here where half of the gesture would be kind of like a dry, what did I write here? Like a dry, no vibrato sound for half of the gesture, then kind of like a warmer vibrato. So it's with,
Dry sound. I'm not really sure how you get a dry sound out.
Would you use kind of like a forked fingering or? For that?
You can change the color.
Yeah.
That's like a richer sound, and you have a hollow sound. It's mostly to do with the vowels, but I'm not really sure what would constitute a dry sound.
Well, the second one's, I'm hearing it through the computer. It's not perfect, but the second one sounded very, very like an oboe almost. So it was kind of like opaque and sounded really nice.
Okay. Yeah, I think you could definitely work with the I think for the flute, it's more a matter of transparency.
Okay.
In tone, at least the way I think of it.
Okay.
Because you have like very transparent sounding sounds which are like low, and the ones which are richer and like just somehow more focused. That's the way I think of it, at least. So like warm, that makes sense. It's like a warm color to me.
I see. So it's, yeah.
So a cold sound would also make more sense, I think.
I see.
Especially if you're moving between different extremes, then it makes sense to use opposites as opposed to just, I think.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah, that could work really nicely.
You think
that
so?
would be really nice as a harmonic, the half airy sound. Because
yeah.
It's actually easier to get those kind of sounds out of harmonics than out of.
I see, okay. Yeah, probably, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So for the line underneath, I don't know your vocal range personally, but it's basically holding a high F with your voice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, or the lower one probably, yeah.
Wow,
that'd be possible, kind of like you know, holding a pedal point, a low F pedal, you know, or
a low F. I could probably do, right?
An F, and yeah, an octave higher on the flute.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find the note first.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I don't really want to do it right now because it's quite
I
late.
wasn't sure about it.
I think it is possible to. Yeah, interesting. I love the idea of harmonizing with the voice.
Yeah.
It does sound really lovely, actually, when it's like in harmony.
Yeah.
The flute, but it might be a bit more difficult at that register.
I see.
It'd be easier, like you heard, I could sing at the same tone as that was really easy for me.
Okay.
But to do it, then I'd have to first hear the note and then sing it because I haven't got perfect pitch. So it's quite. But also,
there are workarounds around it, so there are ways to. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, especially if you have a note beforehand, which is the same. Like if you had like an F over here, then that would be.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So what's the difference between the bit that's approximate and the bit that's free? Is this just more free?
Well, it's just a different idea, and some ideas are going to be more restricted in a like a tempo. So it's approximate to itself, where there's relational. Because I'm not sure the type of notation that I want to use, because I want it consistent.
Right.
I'm gonna work out the whole thing and see what is more consistent with the finished.
Yeah.
Whether to have kind of like a free rhythm completely, or to have it notated but with a lot of tempo changes and rubato. So we'll see what works better for the piece at a more kind of refined draft.
Especially when you use techniques like putting in the voice and like extended techniques, I think it's quite nice to have it open, because then it means that the performer naturally uses the rhythms that work with the technique. So for instance, when I was trying it out, I had to first find a note, then there's like a whole procedure to it, and there's even the technique itself has its own rhythm, like its own technical rhythm. So if you want it to sound like really natural and really like good, I think it is quite nice to have that flexibility to to work it out, you know.
Would you say that having kind of like notes in like ratio or in relation to the length and relative to each other, even if they're not stemmed or anything, or like to use the space without the stems or anything to kind of indicate or a feeling of a faster note or a slower note?
You mean like to space them out, like
Yeah.
in terms of? Yeah, that's definitely really good.
Okay.
Yeah. Are all these lines, do they refer to the voice? Is it, or is,
Yeah, it's no, it's just the like the kind of appoggiatura
oh, right, okay.
or acciaccatura type, you know, so it's like out of the out of tempo,
Ah.
out of the meter, yeah. That's just, yeah, an idea kind of like that to have, I was worrying about the ratio or relativity between the notes, how they are related to each other. If I use this kind of like notation where there's acciaccaturas and then, but they're all not in time, or to actually have them unstemmed, like you said, and to give actually more freedom. Just the different ways that when I was sketching it out, I was thinking about the gesture. But I think, like you said, having it kind of open for the performer, they'll do the most natural thing for the gesture, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. I don't think I can sing that high. I have a really bad, like, limited range.
No. It's just I was just trying it out.
Yeah, but it's a nice idea. Like harmonizing the things. Really nice.
Thanks.
One thing that's really worked really well on the flute, one thing that I tried, was actually singing a whole harmony, like harmonizing completely with the tune. Like I tried doing things in retrograde from the pattern that's being played.
I see.
And it sounds really good because the harmonies somehow work really nicely. You might want to like explore that idea as well.
Okay. That sounds good, yeah.
Yeah.
These are just ideas and yeah.
So does this follow a similar principle to the violin piece where you're kind of exploring
Almost, but
colors?
yeah, but this one is a bit more systematic than the violin piece, I would say. Also a different kind of pitch organization and rhythmic organization as well, but it has similar workings. So yeah, that's more of, I think, the expansion on the past idea. That's a few days later.
Nice. I love flutter tonguing. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea what you want this to trill to? Or can it be any note?
Well, I wanted it, well, when I heard in my head, when I was writing it, it was an F natural, but I think to make it consistent, I'm going to make, like, probably for this piece, all trills will be kind of half step. So they're half trills, just to have it more consistent, but we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, it's the same ideas as before, just changed a bit. And
this bliss, is that meant to be a lipped bliss?
Yeah. Like a lip bliss. And a kind of a repeated note pattern there. This is what I mean with also kind of using the sequences for rhythms as well and repetition. So the D flat is is when the rhythm, you know, would start and articulate and change, and then I can mathematically change that in different ways using Fibonacci or different things to have a set of numbers, and then I can just plop that in to have a pattern, a rhythmic pattern or something.
Is there any kind of articulation for this? Because I'm trying to imagine playing this would be quite a lot of breaths.
Yeah, there has to be. Yeah, I just didn't articulate it. Yeah.
That would be really useful, because then I would know, also from a phrasing point of view, I'd know where I'm allowed to breathe. Because from this, it's not really clear whether if it's meant to be a whole phrase, it's not very easy to do in one go. And then I would also try and rush through it. So if I had some kind of phrasing, I'd know, like, especially if I want to use rubato, I'd know how to shape it a bit better. So that would be really helpful.
Something like that.
Something like that, exactly. Yeah, accents as well are really, really great on the flute, because one of the best things about the flute is the ability to articulate things in so many different ways, like no other wind instrument actually.
Yeah.
You have so much of a capacity to. You have like forward tonguing. You have like different types of loads of different types of articulations. So really try and make use of that, I'd say.
Okay.
And also vowels. I think, again, the flute is really versatile in the sense of colors as well, because you have, just by changing the shape of your mouth, you can change the tone quality so much. So you can maybe do a bit more with that, especially where you're like talking about airiness.
Yeah.
You could think about more about not just airy sounds, but also contrasting it with sounds that are more resonant but have different types of tone qualities, because there's a lot more depth to the sound than just when you make everything airy, you lose a lot of the sound as well. You lose a lot of the qualities. So in that sense, you only really end up with one color, which is why I feel a lot of flute repertoire is a bit too heavily using that. If you know what I mean. I feel like it's a bit of a shame that there's not more that's being made out of the sound itself.
I think because it's just partly due to ignorance, especially for someone who doesn't play the flute. We wouldn't think that there are different, like you would feel different things the way you would produce different tone colors, but it's obvious.
No, I understand it. I think when you think of airiness, though, you can think of it in a bit more of a what's the word? A versatile way. So you can think of it as a spectrum between different sort of colors, complete transparency and really deep, rich sound, because there's not just air and no air. There's not just focused and not focused. There's a whole extra end to the spectrum, which can be dark, rich, and kind of hollow, cool sounds as well. So you could explore a bit more of that spectrum, end of the spectrum as well. It's an idea. Or you could even match the levels of airiness with different types of colors. Something like that.
So levels of airiness, do you mean like
you say half airy here?
So 50-50, or should because I don't know, I've seen that, but I don't know if you prefer that or not. Some people prefer.
Oh yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
What do you think of it?
Well, what some people do is like to show it. They have like a circle, and then they fill it in how much they want the air sound to come out. So you can have like half of the circle filled in, and that expresses that quality.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. That's nice. What does this say?
Well, it's the same gesture as before.
Ah, okay. I just keep reading, thinking I'm reading something and I'm not. Okay, yeah, nice. That's really nice. Especially, that's gonna sound really beautiful. Like quiet sounds low on the instrument. I love that.
Mm,
Sounds really beautiful. Hmm.
can't wait.
Yeah. Another thing, another color you could explore, maybe if you're interested in trying out different colors, is you could make more use of the harmonics, because the flute has some really beautiful harmonics, especially with all the different alternative fingerings.
Yeah,
So if you want to explore again that somewhere of that spectrum,
definitely.
then you could look into that as well. And yeah, also timbral trills are really great.
Yeah,
You have a lot of long sustained notes. Like here, you have this trill over here. You could
yeah.
explore different ways of creating this gesture using different types of timbral trills. So
Yeah.
the easiest thing to do is just use the trill keys. That almost always creates an interesting sound. So just write trill P1, trill P2, and then that creates a really amazing sound.
So what's P1 and P2?
So this, for instance,
Okay.
that's trill P1. Oh, can you see it? Yeah, that's the first one. And trill P2 is over here. Oh, it's basically the same. If you put them down together, then you get another sound altogether. So that also
Interesting.
creates an interesting effect.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, even with the trills, you can explore a lot. I feel like this piece is so full of ideas. It's incredible. It's really exciting.
Awesome.
I think you could break a lot of those ideas down and explore them even further and look at different ways to articulate exactly the same thing,
Yeah.
but expand on those even more.
Yeah, I think from what I showed you a few months back, the couple of pages from a few months back, and these, page and a half.
Yeah,
I think this is the whole material of the piece, and I'll just, explore
yeah.
it more and just make the music matter more. And
Mhm.
I mean, like,
It's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to
me too.
playing it.
I have a flute back home, even though I don't play a flute, but I never knew what the key, the key trills were or how to use them. The
Yeah.
next time I have it with me, I'll probably be exploring it as well.
Yeah, try it. It's really easy. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Eliara. And
Pleasure.
yeah, really, it's an awesome opportunity. And thanks
Yeah.
to everyone who
Really happy.
shared that. Yeah, share their music and their thoughts and ideas. If anybody has any ideas, please share them.
Can I just ask something? I just wanted to ask about the freedom that you had. Was it some passages that you had that were free, or was it the whole thing that was free?
There's an idea where there's a lot of achakaturas.
Yeah.
So it was already out of time, but then I was thinking of specific pulses, and before the pulse, I want kind of like a flourish.
Right.
That's why in that one I had free, but using different rhythmic values for the chakatura, and then we would have the kind of the beat would be here, and
right.
so yeah, so
you basically got like a little slightly slower bit and then a faster bit, and it's just sort of that gesture then.
Yeah, and specific, yeah, but I would keep it like in time if I wanted to be regular or in time or something, according to whatever rhythmic cycle I'm using, then I would notate it in a time signature, but I would still write free.
Your notes in your composition process then essentially. You're not writing it out fully in rhythm, did you say? Or is that how you planned it for the final score?
Well, because how I work is that I work in gestures. So
Yeah.
for example, yeah, so this one would be kind of a gesture.
Okay.
And then I would let's say use that as, or call it, let's say gesture A or something. And then I would have kind of depending on the piece and the kind of rhythms I'm using and transforming, I would have a series of numbers. And I would turn those numbers into rhythmic values. And then I would use those durations as the silence between each time we hear this gesture, or the transformation of this gesture. So let's say we have 5, 3, 4, 1. So we would hear that gestures, and then let's say, a 5 kind of beat rest, say 16th note rest of 5 counts, and then you hear the gesture again, and then 3, and then 3 seconds, or 3, and then the gesture again, like that. So
right. Yeah, I was just trying to understand whether you had some parts that were free, some parts that weren't free. But if it's just a gesture, it makes
just an idea. Yeah, this one is a gesture.
It's not like you're giving a whole load of decision to the performer. It's sort of the musical gestures there, but it's something you basically want everything in the way that you want it, and that's how you've written it down. Is that right? I was just trying to understand if there was some interplay between the freedom that you're giving the performer and the freedom that you and your own wish, your own desire for the.
I think with some gestures, like the one that uses vocal technique or extended technique, I would probably be using more open rhythms and stemless notes, because then the gesture would be more, it would be, I think, like how Eliora just described it, to be more natural how they would perform it. But things that use regular technique, nothing too extended, nothing too crazy, I would probably have more control.
Right.
Since it's already something clear, then I'll make it clear as best as I can.
Do you have any idea for like how long it's going to be?
Probably around 8 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I intended to have it around 8 to 10 minutes.
Right. Is that the idea you started with, or is that how it seems to be going?
I want it to be around actually 8 minutes since the beginning. Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see how, if it's still interesting going up to 8 minutes, that's fine. But if it loses its interest before that, then I'll just end the piece.
It could be fascinating, and then you'll get to 12. Who knows?
Maybe. That's like the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, fantastic. Good luck with it. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you very much for your input. Thanks.
It sounds like a really interesting piece. I think it's going to be, I hope to hear a recording or something sometime, because it really sounds like it'll be interesting. I have a question for you and for Eliora. When you sing into the flute, does that interfere with the sound of the flute at all? Like, does that give you any beating or anything?
Not if you're singing tune. Ideally, no. I could try again. I could demonstrate. It's kind of hard. It is really hard to get it right, but
no, because even if you do sing in tune, I think you had it, the singing stay at F, but then the flute goes up a half tone and another half tone. So you will be at some point singing a half tone away from the flute. And then I mean, it's a great effect, but I think you'll get beating from the flute.
Yeah, like sustaining a pitch with your voice and then chromatically moving with the flute, or the opposite, holding
that'd be
a
interesting. Yeah.
single note with the flute and then chromatically, or I don't know.
Yeah. You'll get really fast beating and then slightly slower beating.
He does that. He gave an osborne.
Yeah, it's definitely something worth trying. Well, if no one else has any comments or anything they want to share, or questions, then I think we'll wrap up if that's okay. Yeah? Yeah?
Thank you, guys.
Okay, great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming, and it's been really, really interesting. And thank you all for your feedback and advice. It's really, really helpful to hear from other people and to anticipate problems that might come up in the composition process, and also to hear other people's composition, like your Adnan, for instance, your composition process is really interesting, and it's very inspiring. So it's just great to hear how people think, and Dana, your pieces are beautiful as well. So it was really lovely. So thank you so much. Our next forum is going to be next month on the when is it? On the 5th of June. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And if you'd like to have a piece of yours showcased, then please do get in touch. Just send us a recording of your music and the score. And we'd love to hear from you. So our email address is atafaeliora@gmail.com. Do you want to put that in the chat? And you can find out more about the events at avazad.com/events. And looking forward to seeing you all there. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Anna,
Bye.
Gloria.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.